Calexico City Council, Calexico Redevelopment Successor Agency, Calexico Financing Authority Special Meeting Agenda. Tuesday, May 9th at 5:42 p.m. Roll call, please.
Mayor Real,
Here.
Mayor Pacheco Hurtado. Here. Councilmember Pacheco.
Here.
Councilmember Escobar is absent. Councilmember Hodge.
Here.
We have a quorum, Mayor.
Thank you. Pledge of Allegiance, could we have Nick Finley lead us in Pledge of Allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Public comments. Public appearances, note not to exceed 3 minutes. This is time for the public to address the City Council on special agenda items only. The mayor will recognize you, and when you come to the microphone, please state your name, place of residence for the record. While members of the public are encouraged to participate, it is unlawful to disturb or delay the council meeting with personal slanderous remarks. City Council is prohibited by state law from taking action on any item not printed on the agenda. Please direct your questions and comments to the City Council. Do you have any public comments? Thank you. Move on. Discussion and potential action items. Item 1, appointment of Measure H Committee by Councilmember Hodge.
Yes, I believe I have found somebody that has good intelligence and background. His name is Robert C. Gonzalez.
Thank you.
Pledge allegiance.
Actually, we have not.
What is
I
it?
will motion to approve the agenda.
Oh,
Do I have a
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Moving on to item 2, appointment of Business Improvement District by Mayor Pro Tem Maritza Hurtado.
I'd like to appoint Mr. Jose Angel Esparza.
Thank you. Item 3, removal of Councilmember Pacheco's appointment for Economic Development Financing Advisory Commission.
Apparently having troubles with the paperwork, so I'll need to select a new individual.
Can he removes it today, but he can't add someone today? No. Okay. Do you want to request to go ahead and do
To
that?
re-advertise, please.
Okay. Let's make a note that he wants to re-advertise that position. Moving on to item 4, 2015-16 audit financial statements, including A, basic financial statements and independent audit report, June 30th, 2016. Federal single audit and independent auditors report, June 30th, 2016. Transportation Development Act, Article 3 and 8E, non-transit, June 30th, 2016 and 2015. Transportation Development Act, Article 8C, transit, June 30th, 2016 and 2015. 5, I'm sorry, we'll end there. Let's start.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll just give a brief intro. We have, as you know, you read the 4 audit statements, and we have here Mr. Pun, and he's going to overview the results of the audit.
Armando, I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
Results of the audit. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and member of the City Council. Again, my name is Ken Poon. I'm the engagement partner of this particular engagement for year-end June 30, 2016. So what I'm going to do today is actually a normal presentation of presenting to you about the audit results of the audit of City of Calexico. So what we have covered tonight is actually go over the scope of work as required by SAS 114 communication with those charged with governance. We are also responsible to discuss something regarding the responsibility on both auditor side and the management side. I'll give you an overview of the financial statement, some key financial indicator and pension information, and last but not least is the audit results. So the scope of work actually include couple things. The main thing is the city of Calexico basic financial statement for year-end June 30, 2016. Since the city expend more than $750,000 of federal expenditure, you are also required to perform an audit, what I call the single audit. This is a audit of the federal expenditure that is incurred by the city. Also, the TDA compliance, which include Articles 3, 8, Article 8C, and also 8E. So those three articles is included in the compliance audit. Last but not least, we also did perform and agree upon procedures regarding the appropriation limit. So making sure that the appropriation limit is calculated properly for your budget purposes. Let's go through the audit responsibility. As management yourself, you are fully responsible for the financial statement. By presenting this financial statement in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles in the United States of America, adopt sound accounting policies, establish and maintain proper internal control over financial reporting and compliance, provide evidence supporting to the amounts and the disclosure in the financial statement, and last but not least is to have programs to prevent and detect fraud. Our responsibility as an auditor is to perform the audit in conformity with generally accepted auditing standard, and since the city has expended more than $750,000 of federal expenditure, while we perform the financial statement audit, we are also required to perform the audit in accordance with government auditing standard. Communicate with those charged with governance. That's why we are here tonight to present the results to you. Assess the audit risk of internal control over financial reporting and compliance. This is a very, very important process because we take internal control very seriously. We also look at the internal control over a couple significant transaction items, which include the financial reporting, cash receipt and revenues, cash expenditures, cash disbursement and expenditures, payroll, employees benefit, and IT control. We also determine the fair presentation of the financial statement and render our opinions on both the financial report and the compliance. Let's go through the financial statement. So included in your financial statement is the financial sections, which includes our independent auditor's report, which is our opinion on the financial statement, the basic financial statement, which is the financial statement of the city, which includes the government-wide financial statement, fund financial statement, and the notes to the financial statement. The required supplementary information is required under GASB Statement Number 34, which include a very important budgetary information, the schedule of changes in proportionate share of the net pension liabilities and related ratio, the schedule of contributions of to your pension plan, and the schedule of funding progress for the other post-employment benefit. And also included in your report is the supplementary information regarding a combining financial statement for all the non-major fund. So there's a really completed financial statement in your financial report. Yes.
Sir, for clarification,
Sure.
excuse my ignorance, but what is OPEB again?
It's other post-employment benefits, which is your retiree medical benefits, okay? So let me give you a brief overview of your financial position as of June 30, 2016. So the first item is what I call the statement of net position. This is a point-in-time statement as of June 30, 2016. As of June 30, 2016, the total asset that the city of Calexico had is $175 million. Net of liability of $78 million. and then your, which result, the net position of about like $96.5 million. You can also see there's two elements called deferred outflows and deferred inflows of resources.
I didn't understand that.
You didn't understand that. So those two new items, new elements, is actually relating to some of the deferrals that came out from the implementation of the new pension standard. Some of the elements within the actuarial study, such as the contribution made after the measurement date, change in assumptions, the differences between the projected and actual investment earnings within the plans, those are recognized, like those will be used and recognized in the future period. So there's the GASB actually did allow some amortization on those couple elements, which will be used in your future period. So that's why as of June 30, 2016, you see the deferred inflows and deferred outflow of resource. And
They'll be coming later, that's what you
yeah,
mean?
that will be used in the future period, yes. So in the net position, as you can see, we have like three big numbers. The net investment in capital asset is actually, it's a self-explanatory. This is relating to your capital asset, is a non-liquidated asset. So that's why we separate those amounts from the liquidated asset, yes.
Can you give an example of some non-liquidated capital assets?
Which includes your building, your city hall here, the infrastructure that you have. Those are included in the net investment in capital asset number.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Restricted, basically is restricted by enabling legislation or by third party. So as of June 30, 2016, you have about like $44.2 million restricted by outsider, remaining a $12.8 million deficit. So basically, that include, this is the remaining amount for the whole entire operations.
96 million.
Total asset, total net position is $96.5 million.
Thank you.
Yes. Let's take a look at the income statement of your, of the current year operations. So, total expenses for the city, it's about $41.4 million. Net of program revenues, which include the charges for service. You can charge user for a fee for the service that you provide. It's about like $16.6 million. Operating grants is about $2.6 million, and capital grant is about $8.9 million. So total program revenue, it's about like $28 million. So the total net cost of service, combining of both governmental activities and the business type activities, is about like $13.2 million. General revenue, which include all the taxes and investment earnings that earned during the year, is about like $14 million. So the net result, so you have a little surplus for between both two entities, activities, is about like $928,000. So, but you can tell the governmental activities, you have a deficit of about like $3.4 million, but the business type activities actually bring it back up about like $4.3 million. So at the end, you still have about $928,000 increase in your net position.
Would that go into the reserves, or it's going to be used for other things?
I'll defer that to city management to answer your questions here. So let's take a look at the city's general fund. The city general fund is the main operating fund of the city, so that's why we would like to take a closer look at it. So as of June 30, 2016, you have a total asset of about like $1.9 million. Liabilities, actually I break it up a little bit between the current liabilities and the advances from other fund. During June 30, 2016, the city actually did make a $3.5 million loan between the general fund and the wastewater funds to basically use it to balance the budget. So that's why you have a $3.5 million of a little long-term liability which reported in your general fund, resulting a net unassigned fund deficit of about like $4 million. However, even though this is a deficit, we already noticed that the city take a big step to make the first payment in your next budget cycle to pay off, start paying the wastewater fund down, okay? Okay, the income statement for the general fund, you have a total revenue earned during the year, $16.4 million, net of the expenditure of about like $19 million. So you have a kind of little structural deficit that we see, $2.8 million. And then also you need to transfer out about like $1.1 million to subsidize other funds operation of about like $1.2 million. So that's why you have a net change in fund balance of $3.9 million outflows of fund balance during the current year. Couple key financial indicators that I would like to go through, and key pension information. The first one is the net cost of service to tax revenue for the governmental activities. The net cost of service basically is all the expenditures net of the program revenue that you earn. It's about like $17.5 million, but the total tax revenue is about 13.7. So that means that the city won't be able to cover all your program from your main operations, from the tax revenue. So basically, every dollar that you earn, like make during the year, you spend about like $1.28. So these numbers ideally should be ranged between 85% to 95%. Our firm actually did a benchmark for about like 108 cities in California, and those ranges average is about like 90% of that range. So that's why I encourage management to take a closer look at your operations, trying to maintain that operations within those range. The next item is the unassigned fund balance to annual expenditure. This is what I call the rainy days fund ratio. Usually, we recommend our clients to use a 3 months of expenditure as a benchmark for your rainy days fund reserve. As you can tell, as of June 30, 2016, you have an unassigned fund balance of about like $4 million in deficit, and your total annual expenditure is about like $19 million. So that's why, and that's come up with a negative ratio. So you have a long way to build up your operating reserve. So that's mean in the next couple of years, we highly recommend you to build up a operating reserve, setting aside money just for the emergency purposes. Gas piece?
Quick question.
Yes.
On the previous slide, it was got a negative ratio of 21%.
Correct.
You mentioned you had a benchmark of roughly 85 to 95, and I believe your average was 90% versus ours is 128% on two previous slides.
Yep.
Do you have a benchmark for this one specifically?
That one is based on locality, because some of the richer city, they have close to about like 100%. But this is really not like a benchmark, because different cities are operating very differently, and also cities have different challenges too. Ideally, the credit rating agency, they are looking at about like a 2 months expenditure, but as an external CPA, we always highly recommend to be like a 3 months to 4 months expenditure. So that's come up with a ratio between 25 to 33%. That will be the ideal ratio.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Let me just understand for clarification. So you're saying that between the net cost of services and tax revenues are really great, the difference, right?
Yeah,
And it's this 128%?
128%.
And under normal operations, it should be 85 or 90%.
85 to 95
Okay.
would be the ideal range. So, the next couple slides is actually bring it up to you on the pension information, because pension is one of the most challenges standard that we implement during the last couple of years. So as of June 30, 2015, which is the measurement date of the pension liability, which report on your June 30, 2016 report, the net pension liability was about like $17 million. As you can tell, this $17 million was already booked as your liability. That is one of the reasons why you drive your unrestricted deficit, unrestricted net position into the deficit position. So $17 million was recorded on the face of the financial statement. Keep that in mind. This pension is actually measured at a discount rate of 7.5%. So, however, CalPERS in December already approved a plan to actually drop the rate from 7.5% to a 7% in the next 3 years. So that means in the next couple of years, you will see the net pension liabilities will be going up. So that's, at the end of the day, that will have some couple impact to the city. The actuarial determined contribution rate is going to go up significantly in the next decade. We are, as a firm, we already recommended clients to consult with actuary to actually determine what will be the impact. Give you an example. One of the cities that I work at in Los Angeles, we already hired a consultant to look at the net pension liabilities for the next 20 years, and at the year 2028, that will be the peak when we actually estimate our actuarial determined contribution. For example, the miscellaneous plan, currently they contribute about like 15%. By the year end, June 30, 2028, they're contributing about like 35% for miscellaneous plan. Same thing for safety plan. Currently, we are paying 35% for that one particular city, and going up to 2028, it'll be about like 70 to 75%. So that's why based on what I see so far, the pension contribution will be a challenge for the city.
For employees.
For employer, because it's more of the.
But this is
employee.
statewide.
It's the
This
statewide.
statewide GASB. This is the
Yes,
actual fund that needs to be.
correct.
Transferred over the employees.
So that's why I would like to bring it to your attention. Yes, now you don't have an issue, but this is a statewide issue that we all currently face.
We have a good
So-
period of time. We should increase our salary.
GASB statement number 45, other post-employment benefit. Basically, as of this point, the unfunded OPEB liability has not been implemented and put it on the face of the financial statement. So based on your last actuarial study that was done as of July 1st, 2014, the city did not set aside any asset in the irrevocable trust to fund this liability. So that's why the funding status of this plan is actually 0%. City is using as pay-as-you-go. So the total actuarial accrued liability was determined based on as of the measurement date was about like $28 million. So keep that in mind. Next year, June 30, 2018, when GASB 75 is actually implemented, these $28 million will have a new valuation, will be put on your financial statement. So that's further drive your net position into a much more deeper into the red. So that will be another challenge for you to keep that in mind. The audit results. So the first part is, let's go through the financial statement audit. So for the financial statement audit, We are happy to say that we are able to issue an unmodified opinions for all opinion units that we issue, which means that the financial statements are fairly presented in all material respect. The accounting policy have been consistently applied. The estimates are reasonable, and the disclosure are properly reflected in the financial statement.
You've done a good job.
That means the city actually did reported all the amount and the disclosure properly in accordance with GAAP.
Oh, very good.
Okay? That doesn't mean that this is a good indicator of a good financial health, okay? So, however, we do have like three things that we want to point it out in our audit report. Even though this is a unmodified opinion, we have like three things we would like to point it out.
I see.
One is the proper extortion of funds, because the
Can
city.
you elaborate on that?
Sure. We are actually looking at the budget that was being adopted compared to the final expenditure. So basically.
Which budget was this?
For 2015-16 budget in your general fund.
When the one that was off by millions of dollars?
No, those are not off by $1 million. This is a really, really small one that we pointed out. As of June 30, as you can see, if you have the basic financial statement, it is in one of the footnote number 15. And we are pointing out two departments, which include Public Works and Community Development. Both have overspending your expenditure compared to the budget that was being adopted. For Public Work is.
Correct,
in
correct,
excess of
correct. So it
about-
was overspent,
Yeah,
correct? Okay.
overspending by 94,000, and the other ones for community developments of about like $66,000. Okay? Second is a going concern. We have substantial doubt that the city's going concern, abilities as a going concern, which means that you have a really poor financial result during the year. The city cannot balance out the budget for the first year and require a $3.5 million advance from the wastewater fund. As of June 30, 2016, the city doesn't have any cash balance remaining in your general fund. And then also take a look at your reserve fund balance. The rainy days fund in a deficit position. The net cost of service compared to tax revenue, it's at 128%. That's actually that's causes us a little concern on your ongoing operations here. So that's why the city really needs to take a look at your budget, take a look at your operations, trying to come up with a sustainable operations for the next couple of years. Because otherwise, I'm afraid that you may want to go, you don't want to go through the what I call the BK route, because it's a really, really painful process. I can tell Susan, being through at the city of Vallejo, I had like two clients, city of Stockton and city of San Bernardino, took them millions and millions of dollars in legal fees to get through the bankruptcy process. So that's why the next couple of years, you need to work closely with your city managers, your financial consultant, working closely together to make it work and have a plan together, have a sustainable fiscal policy to be adopted. Okay? And last but not least, I already talked about it, is the change in CalPERS contribution, the discount rate. That will have a significant impact to the contribution rate the city will face. So I know you will need to spend some money on the actuary. Come up with a sustainable plan. Either go on, like I highly recommend, if you do have extra money, to set aside money in using a 115 trust, or maybe working with CalPERS to have an aggressive payment plan to CalPERS so that you can stabilize your rate in the future. So those are a couple of things that you may want to work out with your financial consultant. Other results, we do not have any disagreement with management. However, we do identify significant deficiency and material weaknesses in internal control over financial reporting and compliance. We do not have any accounting issues, and no material fraudulent activities were discovered. So basically, it's pretty clean.
Really?
Okay?
Very interesting.
So the first one is delayed in financial reporting. So basically, as you can tell, we are in May now, so it's about like a couple months delay in issuing our June 30, 2016 report. As required under the Single Audit Act, we need to finish up this report by March 31st of every year because you have a June 30, 2006, June 30 year end. So this year, I can tell is significant improvement compared to last year because last year is further delayed in issuing the financial report. One of the things that we also see that the numbers of findings and the number of adjusting journal entries being proposed by our auditors, it's actually trimming down to a very small numbers. Compared last year, the total finding, we have about like 8 findings between the financial statement and single audit. Now we are down to 3. Significant improvement. And then also the number of journal entries that we proposed last year was about like 20 some odd journal entries, and this year we only down to 4.
What do you mean by journal entries?
Journal entries is something that we found that there is a mistake that was being reported from the original trial balance presented from management.
That's what you call that, journal
That's what we
entries?
call. So
Okay.
if we actually find something, we'll propose a journal entries to correct the misstatement so that your financial statement can be fairly presented in all material respect.
Mr. Poon, do you mind repeating the difference between last year and this year's journal entries again?
Last year, we have about like 25 journal entries that was proposed from our audit team. This year, we are only down to 4. Significant improvement. That means your team, your financial team, along with your financial consultant, they actually get the whole entire financial statement be completely ready and let us come in and do our work. That's why, as you can tell, we significantly improve on even on the number of hours that we put into this particular engagement. Last year, I can tell in the last 5 years, we spent about like 700 to 800 hours every year. This year, we are spending about like 450 hours.
Wow, half.
Yes, significantly improved. It's a kudos to your management.
Does the fact that we have a new software program help you in your
Also,
work as
yes.
well? Because we had
New
such an
software,
old program before.
The team actually is much more organized, along with the technical expertise from your financial consultant. That's actually really, really helpful for the audit process.
Good.
So we are anticipate for the next fiscal year, we are anticipate to another 2 months earlier compared to what we have now. So we are anticipate that we can issue the financial statement prior to the deadline, March 31st.
That's good.
That's one good news. Huh?
One good news. However,
Before you used to argue in the room like, oh no, who's going to go to Calexico, right?
so the next audit result is actually getting into your single audit. So the single audit is not as clean as the financial statement. We did actually qualify one of the program, which is the Home Investment Partnership Program. The total expenditure is about $511,000. However, the other major program that we test is the Department of Transportation, the Highway Planning and Construction Cluster. Total expenditure of $1,090,000. So let's give you a little detail why we qualify the program, the home program. We do have like 2 material weaknesses that we identified. So the city was unable to produce the accurate internal.
I'm sorry for interrupting, but on the slide you just had, are you saying that total expenditures 511,000 is too much?
It's not about the numbers, it's about the compliance issue.
Compliance issue.
Yeah, total expenditure that was spent during the year is about 511,000. This number is fine to our understanding.
Oh,
But a couple of the things is relating to the home program, the loan program that you have, and generating the program income. The city used to use a outside contractor to maintain your subledger, your loan profile for all the participants. However, the ledger between the two can, between the city and the outsider, will not be able to reconcile between the two. So that's why we are not be able to verify the program income from those participants, okay? And the next one is actually regarding to the reporting. And the city did not submit the following report required for compliance in order to determine that the city was in compliance with uniform guidance. So basically, you do have a quality state performance report needs to be produced. The state home project monthly status report needs to be produced. And then also the quality state program income report also needs to be produced. So we highly recommend that the city actually do assign somebody to make sure that these reports are filed in a timely manner and submit accurately to the state. So other than these two findings, I do not have any more findings regarding to the program, and that concludes our presentation tonight.
Well, thank you very much, and thank you for being patient.
Sure, you're welcome.
Mr. Mayor, any retort or concern?
Well, I want to congratulate the staff for being on top of things and our consultant.
Yes.
And the department for getting everything organized and making this audit less troublesome for you.
Yes.
And if we continue with what we're doing, it'll be a faster audit for next year, hopefully.
Correct.
So congratulations to the staff.
Thank you, staff.
I also just want to echo that statement and say that hopefully next year you'll do it in 200 hours, and it's even cheaper, right, for the city. So yeah, thanks to the staff. And again, just tip my hat, but I can't say enough about them. It's contrary to what people say, I think they're doing an excellent job, and I'm very proud of everybody there, so, and to the city manager. Let's move on to,
So, Mr. Mayor, if I may, I know
Sure.
that there was a couple of ratios in there that were out of whack in terms of expenses and revenues. And I think when we present to you next year's audit report, those ratios are going to be normal. As Mr. Pun indicated, we're taking a number of steps to be able to make sure that our expenditures align with revenues. And that we don't, this hopefully this will be the last audit that we present these numbers to you. I think we knew at the beginning that we were going to be this bad, and this audit sort of confirms, our suspicions. So again, since the beginning of the year, the fiscal year, we've been anticipating not doing this again. So we've taken the steps. We prepared for you a 3, 6, and a 9 months report that shows how we intend to, in the future, avoid a lot of these out of whack ratios that we have. And I think there's another item that you're going to see where we are taking significant cuts to make sure that doesn't happen again.
and just to, in a nutshell, what the staff has done this last year is pretty much fixed the last 3 years of financials in the city. And they've done a great job at that. And, I understand that we've taken the steps this year that have been really hard. I think everybody on the council can say that the steps that have been taken have been hard on the community, on the employees, and definitely on us as well. There's steps that have had to happen because we know they needed to happen. But I also believe that the steps that we have taken have only got us to point zero. We need to start saving for the rainy day. And so there's still a lot of hard work to do. We're not out of the woods yet. So I hope that the staff and the council together would continue this hard work because it's not easy.
We will.
It's not easy, so thank you.
May I say something, Mr. Mayor?
Mayor?
Public comments? Okay.
Does that
Go
mean
ahead, go ahead.
I agree with the mayor as what he just said, but as I was reading all of this, my mind was telling me that, yes, probably in the future, there'll probably be some more cuts, but I believe we're down to bare bone as far as staff. I mean, I just will wince if I hear that we're getting rid of more people. So for me, I believe the success to get out of this hole is to be aggressive in generating more revenue. Do you agree?
Yeah, there's a couple things that you need to take a look at. One is enhance your current revenue. Yeah, how to enhance your revenue for the future. That is
Okay.
very, very important. Not only thinking about cut, but also thinking
Right.
about how you generate more revenue.
Okay.
And this is something, this is something maybe more of a question for Mrs. Mayor, but, you know, I think in business and everybody's life and in government as well, everything keeps going up every year. You know, retirement costs, you know, just cost of living increases, you know, 3% a year, or, you know, depending on GDP. But long story short, the city needs to be growing, our tax base needs to be growing every year at least what it's going up. If not, we're going backwards. So we should be doing, you know, our tax base needs to grow a lot, actually. So, yeah, we need to be very aggressive.
So it requires us to be astute, do research, strategize,
Very aggressive.
and progressive. Mr. City Manager, you said we're going to be taking steps, and you mentioned one, that you'd given 3, 6, and 9 months reports. Could you tell us the other two?
Well, some of the things that we're doing is we're actually analyzing, and you know, to make better decisions, we need data, and now we have the ability to crank out data much faster.
Good.
And we're actually producing reports for you and the public, 3 months, 6 months, and 9 months, so that we can see where we're headed before we finish the year. The other things that we are doing is we're trying to find ways to reduce costs, right? And that means looking at you know, negotiations with employees, redesigning health plans, and you know, the main thing is you know, we're about to undertake a strategic planning process where I hope that this material in front of you gives you the desire to say, look, economic development has to be one important component of
Exactly.
what we need to do next year, because we need to grow our revenue. And the only way to do it is to have a very aggressive economic development approach. So, you know, when you put it all together, I think these are steps in the right direction that are gonna help us year 2, year 3, year 4 out.
Thank you.
All right, if no more questions, public comments, please.
My name is John Kim. I believe you guys missing me last week, so I'm here today. And first of all, whatever you guys doing it, if we have unhappy community, we're not gonna grow. The money-wise, the city, happy citizens, they're growing, the city is growing. Merchants coming in, you guys gonna say, oh, we're gonna put the more merchants there, but merchants not gonna come because when they don't see the profit, they need to have the business source, they can come in. And even city doesn't invite them, they will ask the city to come here. Well, so good luck with the unhappy citizens. You guys have to fix the problem first.
Sir,
then
your
others.
comment has to be on
Yes.
item 4, which
Well,
is
well, you guys-
financial audit statement. If you have a question regarding the financial statement,
I know you don't want to hear it. Thank you.
I just,
Okay, first of all, any business, when they have account receivable, if they don't collect it, they should be noted. And City of Calexico, $5.9 million impact fee didn't collect 2013 as to defer that. And since then, there's no showing up at the book. So I believe is that our accounting system, something wrong with that. So is there any way we can put some account receivable to keep on doing until we receiving? We have liabilities to keep every year's coming in. But there is nothing in our revenue account receivable is not showing up. So $6 million is gone. And guess what happens? The last year, the December, they deferred us $500,000 fee. Is not collecting yet. It's not showing up. So the city using the deferring system to waiving the fees, impact fees, whatever. So I believe they have something in the revenue to showing the account of the receivable. If we couldn't collect last year, it should become this year too. But we're not doing it as liabilities. So I don't see it, and I don't see anything from our auditors to we have so much money to collect, because I believe because it's not been given to them. So we need issuing our account receivable. We should be there. So that if we couldn't collect last year, we should be able to collect this year. That's our source of the revenue. So we don't collect the $6 million or more, and we complaining we don't have money.
3 minutes, thank you.
And I'm talking about the 4A.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's 3 minutes.
Yeah, but I have a 4A, 4B, 4C, 4D.
Is he next?
We
I'm
can
gonna-
consider it being one item altogether. This agenda is just one item, so it'll be 3 minutes for the item.
3 minutes for the whole item, okay. So that's it.
Well, the A, B, C, D, they have different items.
It's all one item, 4.
Yeah, but an item in A, B, C, D.
A, B, C, and D is not an item. It's
And-
item 4.
Again,
I
you
will-
guys
hold
are
on.
using the lawyers to eliminate the public comments. Yes, last time you limiting the not to talk, and you're not
Sir,
using
you
the
have
lawyer
3
to not
minutes.
to talk.
You have 3 minutes for your item 4. You already spent your 3 minutes.
I just admit of A, B, C, D. That's a item is, you might can decide to go one by one, or you might can decide the one. So it's up to you how you doing it.
You already spoke your 3 minutes. Thank you.
You see, you wanna keep the mouth shut,
Sir.
community.
You're done with your 3 minutes, okay? Take a seat. Thank you. Next.
Thank you for your transparency.
Okay, item 5. You're up, Mr. Kim.
Or do we have any
Item
other?
5. Oh, come up first for item 5. You want to speak on item 5 as well? All right, item 5. Consideration resolution of City of Calexico approving the mid-year amendment of the 2016-2007 general fund budget.
Good evening, Council. My name is Susan Mayer. I'm a financial consultant helping your finance department. And I'm here to follow up on the last mid-year report that on April 19th, we came and gave you a 9-month report that was basically monitoring and recommending some adjustments to the budget. And the action tonight is to formalize those adjustments to the budget. When the 16-17 budget was adopted, you may remember we were in the middle of financial system conversions and year-end close and some general fog concerning the city's financial condition. And now twice during the year, we've come to you to kind of tweak, not make major revisions, but mainly to just tweak the general fund budget to be sure that we end the year and live within our means of the revenues that we have within the year. And so in April, we identified some revenues that were at risk, some expenditures that were trending over budget, and a gap. But at that time, we had not yet worked with the departments to come up with solutions. And so tonight, we are going to ask you to consider some specific line item adjustments that will allow you to have a balanced budget for the 16-17 year. And the way I look at this, we've just heard about the audit for the 15-16 year. Now we are making adjustments to the 16-17 fiscal year, and this is all part of a just demonstrated commitment to making sure that the city keeps its financial house in order going forward. The revenue adjustments that we have for you tonight are the same that were presented to you in April. We have some good news on the property tax side because your successor agency sold a property, and you as a taxing entity share in the proceeds from that sale. We have some risks that have been identified both in the sales tax, the franchise, the TOT. But the main adjustment is the good news that you have a special grant from the Heffernan District to support your fire activities. And so in total, we're recommending that you adjust your revenue budget from a $14.8 million level to a $15.2 million level. As I said on April 19th, I'll repeat this again, the most important number that you'll see in tonight's presentation is the 17-18 revenue projection. The 16-17 projection at $15.2 million has the one-time items in it from the land sale and from the Heffernan grant. And so you need to assume and anticipate that the budget that we'll be presenting to you for 17-18 will need to ratchet down the revenues slightly because of those two one-time items. We're glad to have them. They are helping you balance the budget for the year, but we're not out of the woods yet in terms of right-sizing the general fund budget. $14.4 million is our best current estimate of the revenues you will have to work with in the budget for the coming 17-18 fiscal year. On the expenditure side, we're recommending adjustments that match the revenues to the expenditures. We have identified areas where we need to increase the budget, particularly unachieved fire contract savings. In January, you had assumed that you would be able to successfully negotiate adjustments with the fire department. Since that has not happened, we need to increase the budget to cover that shortfall. And again, the particular line item, this $560,000, has been backfilled by the Heffernan District. There are other salary and benefit line items that are over budget to the tune of $600,000. This is actually a fairly significant number. The primary item was an underestimated budget for the fire leave backfill. When fire employees are out on sick leave or other leave, the trucks still roll, and so there's a need to backfill those employees. That amount was under budgeted. There have also been some employees who have left during the year, and there were some leave payouts that were unbudgeted. And finally, there were some vacancy assumptions that were made that did not materialize. And so in total, we need to adjust the salary budget by $600,000. The largest of that item is the misbudgeting on the fire department. There are two items in the police department. There are two grants where the revenue has fallen short, the asset forfeiture and the Operation Stone Garden. Again, this is not new news. This is information that we presented to you in April in the last report. There are also administrative costs that we detailed for you and are also detailed by line item in the exhibit to your resolution. In the last item, and I don't think we covered this last time, we understand there is an interest in limiting the use of Measure H money to those items that have been approved for salaries and for the fire equipment lease. And when the budget was adopted, all the Measure H money was basically stripped and budgeted to transfer to the general fund to support general operations. And so this amendment before you takes a step to resume and isolate the residual Measure H monies for consideration and recommendation by the Measure H committee to you as a city council to formally appropriate those funds. Yes.
Okay, these are expenditures that you're going over, correct?
Correct.
Mr. City Manager, I thought Operation Stone Garden asset forfeitures was money coming to us.
The general
But
fund
do I
budget.
read this right, that we have to pay?
The
These are
general
shortfalls,
fund-
Bill.
The general fund budget relied on salary reimbursements, salary offsets, So we had budgeted salary and benefits in the general fund that we assumed would be allocated to and be reimbursed from these grant funds. And so the grant offsets have not materialized. You're correct. There's a shortfall in the revenue, but it's creating the inability to allocate the salaries to those programs that we had anticipated. We're still paying the employees. So basically, the revenue shortfalls in the grant funds are causing us to increase the salary and benefit budget in the general fund.
And
Revenue
as well as asset forfeiture, very similar to how the city has for a long time been using Measure H and all these things to contribute to the general fund, when in reality our city is a $14 million city, and they use these extra funds to take us up to the $18 million range, but these funds are not, for example, the asset forfeiture or Stone Garden, they're not something that's for sure every year, but the city has been using it as that, and I believe the city has to live within its means as far as not taking those into consideration.
So to respond to the council member's request, the action before you tonight reduces the reliance on these grant funds and instead creates budgets, salaries and benefits from your general tax dollars and reduces the reliance on the grant funds.
I do have a question. Ms. Myers. When you're referring to the shortfalls with regard to these problematic grants that we have here in the police department, because we had, I would say, kind of sort of similar issues with grants in our housing, are we going to, is that blended in here as well, having the general fund having to cover those shortfalls?
We have had problems in the housing funds because the grant administrative funds have been frozen during the audit of those programs. When the 16-17 budget was adopted, we assumed that the housing administrative costs would be funded by the general fund. So that was already taken care of in the base budget for 16-17. You're already budgeting for those employees.
Do you mind if you recall what that amount is that we're having to cover, what that shortfall is for the housing needs?
Well, so I have bad
Roughly?
news I have bad news and good news. So I believe the amount was about $400,000, but I'm going off of memory.
Okay.
There were 4 employees plus some various administrative costs. The good news is part of the solution here is that we're recognizing $200,000 of reimbursements from the successor housing fund. These are the old low-to-mod, the 20% low-to-mod redevelopment monies. There's a state law that allows you to claim $200,000 in admin expenses each year. This amount was not included in the original budget, and so so you've asked for the amount. We're dropping the general fund support from housing from the $400,000 range down to a $200,000 range.
Do you mind my asking, how many years have we carried this $400,000 amoup? Has it been 3?
It's 1 year.
approximately?
This is the first year that
It's
the
only the
general
first year.
fund.
In other words, this one here that we're
Although I
talking
will
about?
qualify that because in 15-16, the general fund did do a transfer to clean up the unreimbursed costs from prior years. So there was a cleanup
Partial.
action in 16, but this is the first year that we have
And
included this.
correct me if I'm wrong, but with the housing, it's a little different than policing, because with the housing, when you, for example, when the assets are frozen, then you just stop the programs, which means that you're not giving out money, rental assistance and all, you can stop it. Versus policing, you can't stop the policing. The policing needs to happen on a daily basis, correct?
The salaries and benefits.
Correct.
To the extent
Correct.
that you're staffing the positions.
The staffing with the housing, fortunately or unfortunately, we have rearranged the staffing to help, for example, at the finance department, things of that nature, so it kind of, but yeah, also the housing's been hurting us as well, so. All right, let's move on.
So in total, we had a revenue adjustment and a series of expenditure augmentations. And so collectively, we had about a $1.5 million gap to fill, and we have proposed adjustments, line item adjustments, and the details are included in the exhibit to your resolution, but I will say that virtually all general fund departments have been cut. And the city manager simply took a red pen, and numbers, budgets have been suspended. A number of departments had major line items that were we just have to shut down expenditures in order to be sure that we are living within our means in the current year. I won't say that the departments were excited about these cuts, yet at the end of the day, we have to balance the budget. And so we had cost reductions in the police department, public works, community services, the administration. All of these departments have contributed to this $876,000 of program reductions. Normally, when we cut programs, we are asked by City Council, what is the impact of the service to the community?
Yes.
And in this case, I don't have a detail to provide to you. All I can tell you is that programs that were, we found line items where spending had not happened during the year, and programs had not yet been implemented. They've simply just been stopped in order to live within the means for the current year. Fortunately, half of the savings, and I will say this, $670,000 of these savings are in the insurance programs. And I don't want to jinx these programs, but you have had a number of years where you have had very high workers' compensation and general liability costs, very high costs. And in each of your internal service fund programs, in each of your self-insurance programs, the year-to-date trends, and now we're 9 months into the year, and actually 10 months into the year, are very favorable. The active medical claims, and you are self-insured for medical, the active medical claims are trending well, the workers' comp is trending well, the general liability is trending well. And so you adopted a budget assuming that your program departments would be needing to fund claims that have not yet, to date, materialized. Now, we won't actually know the results until the end of the year, and some of these programs rely on actuarial evaluations that are in progress. However, based on a cash position, half of the solution for this budget gap is coming from favorable claims trends in the medical, workers' comp, and the general liability program. So this is good news, and I think this bodes well for the insurance rates that you will see in the budget coming forward for 17-18. It's a bit of good news.
Okay, good news.
What is the net result?
start.
We have matched the expenditure adjustments to the revenue adjustments. The beginning balance actually had a $50,000 surplus, and so we have maintained that. The net result, after you consider the proposed budget adjustments, will to have an expenditure budget that is slightly less than the revenue budget. And this is designed to give just a small cushion. When you are budgeting $15 million of revenues and $15 million of expenditures, something will not land as planned. And so there's just a very small cushion here. We hope to be able to continue to build your cushion or your rainy day fund through the next successive budget cycles as well. This only addresses the current year activity. As Mr. Poon indicated, the audit results showed that the general fund started the year in a deficit of $4 million. The expenditure line here includes the first of 4 installment payments to repay the wastewater fund loan. And so you do hope to see improvement in the fund balance, but there is still a very deep hole to dig back out of.
If we use Mr. Poon's suggestion of a 3-month expense rainy day fund, if we use the math real quick, it's 4.5 million.
Correct.
Am I to assume that how we're trending now, fiscal year end 2016-17, our rainy day fund will be plus or minus $50,000?
Well, you're starting out with a negative $4 million.
No. Granted, I mean, we did a heck of a job, but realistically, our rainy day fund would be based on this,
For the current
based on the
year activity.
information, it would be $50,000, correct?
For the current year activity, yes.
Yes,
If projections come in exactly as planned, which they won't, they will either be better or worse, right? But based on the projections here, you will have.
Just very simple math, $50,000 versus the 4.5 suggested by our CPA,
Correct.
our outside CPA consultant.
15 and 16 is where we had the 4 million deficit, correct?
And you actually had 2 successive years of significant deficits, but yes, you're
And
correct.
now we're approaching 16, 17.
No, we're in 16, 17. We're approaching 17, 18.
That's right.
So this report is 16, 17, we're tracking
Which
our
we are in
expenses.
right
and-
now.
Yeah, so we're, if things come out the way we planned them, we should have $50,000 surplus, which
Okay, what year did we balance the 4 million? 15, 16, or 16, 17?
I think you're referring to the, and you're right, we've been dealing with a number of fiscal years, and aren't we glad to finally have 16 behind us? When we adopted the 16-17 budget on June 30th of 2016, we included a placeholder of 4 million cuts that needed to be reduced. And during the fall of 16, the city manager negotiated with your employee unions
Yes.
and found other reductions. And in January, you passed a budget amendment that eliminated those placeholders. So yes, the 16-17 year is the year that you balanced, you found solutions
And
to 4 million.
this period ends in July,
June 30th, yes. Mhm.
or June 30th. And when we begin 17, 18, how much are we going to be in deficit?
And you're leading into the next slide. This is a perfect question, because now as we consider an amendment to tweak the 16-17 budget, the very next thing that needs to come before you is the proposed budget for 17-18. And I showed you the slide that indicates general fund revenues are going to be in the $14 million range, just like they have been for the last several years. And so the art of the budget is for the council to consider how it wishes to allocate those revenues to its programs, and what services it will choose to prioritize, what positions it will choose to fund, what projects it will fund. The general fund will still be limited. You are still incurring costs to repay your loan, and you are also ramping up for PERS, the pension rate increases, not this coming year, but in the successive years. So I think you're still going to have a couple tough years when you're repaying your debt, you're trying to build reserves, and you're bracing for the increase in the pension benefits. But yes, the next thing that will come before the council, the next financial matter to come before the council will be the proposed 17-18 budget, which we need to adopt by the end of June. So we have basically 45 days.
But when we start, how much are we in debt?
In
You're
debt.
balanced. You're
So if
balanced.
you're talking about the general fund balance, we started the year with a negative $4 million. During the year, we hope to approximately break even, maybe have a
Yes.
50,000 surplus. But you're also making an installment payment on the wastewater loan.
Okay?
So you're going to be closer to 3 million than 4 million. If
So you're
things
not,
come-
you're not showing negative, but you're negative because you borrowed from the Water Enterprise Fund.
I have
So
a question.
you are negative, but
I have a
Well, I
question.
realize
on
that.
paper, it still looks okay.
Ms. Myers, I have a question. Today, we were kind of trying to do a little bit of the math, just to kind of, in general, understand the tightness, I'll call it, the limited availability of funds, which was something that was probably a core, in my opinion, of the overall mess of the Measure H situation, is that we had so much turnover and all that. But the dedicated and earmarked funding towards our police and fire every year is 850.
1.2, 850 for
1.2 total.
police, 400 for fire.
Well, I think it's 1,250, was it what we calculated?
A million two, your question is respect to the Measure H funding, correct?
Correct.
Of the Measure H revenues, the first million goes to debt
Correct.
service.
Debt service, which
The
is
next-
1 million exact, or 900 and something thousand,
Then $1,250,000 is for police and fire salaries.
okay?
And in this particular year, in the 16-17 year, there is also a $200,000 lease payment. It's the last lease payment for one of the fire engines, equipment, apparatus.
Okay. Measure H has a general flow of revenue, I guess we were kind of looking at the trend of about a little over 2 million every year, and it's been like that for quite a while. And I believe that this was one of the biggest oversights ever, was the fact that we had these commitments, these future commitments, that because of the turnover in staff and in our committee members, no one was recognizing the fact that this fund was already limited. And a lot of spending continued with the confusion that existed. So I think it's really important that we understand that even I myself, I just didn't realize, wow, we have nothing left in that to even spend. And it kept happening, and so I recognized that early on as far as when we were pointing all that out. But it is something important to note to the council that if you'd like to say that clarification, because that was a real important part to see that we had pretty much written post-dated checks for years and years and years from here on in on Measure H a long time ago. I think this happened probably in 2011. Yeah, and so like, I think it was in 2011 or 2012 when we committed, and so that wasn't recognized, I guess, in the way it should have been. And I don't believe that there's much to say more than the fact that it is what it is, and that it's important to know that Measure H does exist as a flow of revenue. However, you're now taking the last quarter left for filling in whatever it is that you need, so it's hard.
Can I ask a basic question? If we get 2 million from Measure H, what do we do with that?
Well, that's what,
And it's 2 million and change. It's more than 2 million. The current year projection, it's very dependent on the economy, and so it's a little bit less this year than the prior year, but it is 2 million and change. The first million goes to debt service. The next $1,250,000 goes to police and fire salaries, $850,000 for police, $400,000 for fire, and that these were amounts recommended by your Measure H committee. The last commitment is $200,000 for a fire lease. The 16-17 is the last year of that payment, so that money will free up in the next year.
how long is the lease commitment?
This is the last year.
This is the last one, okay.
Mr. Hodge, the $1 million, Mr. Hodge, the $1 million debt service payment is because we bonded, I think it was $11 million. And we still have a big chunk of that money, it's about $7 million.
The fire department.
It's for the future fire station.
We're not
future
touching that.
We're not touching that. Well, it's dedicated, set aside for that fire station.
We didn't,
And for Cordova Park.
wait,
There's $7 million of bond
was that
proceeds.
absorbed in the general fund?
No, it's still.
Seven of the
It's
bond
restricted.
proceeds, a trustee holds the bond proceeds. It
Restricted.
is committed to capital projects. Of the amounts that are remaining, and you may remember you do 3 million this year to pay for the school swimming pool, right? But of the 7 million that remains, 6 million is dedicated by your policy choice to the fire station, a million for park improvements,
We set a new fire station.
or improvements to the fire station. And your public works director is on the agenda to discuss the capital program with you, including this item.
I'm taking notes. Could you be kind enough to repeat, out of the 2 million, 1 million to debt service, and then how much were for fire and police?
1,250,000 is for salaries, of which 850,000 is for has been earmarked for the police department, 400,000 is earmarked for the fire department. And then there's a $200,000 lease payment for fire apparatus.
Thank you.
One thing to note on the Measure H is that while it does help, and it was passed by the citizens, while it does help, it also puts as a higher, Calexico has a higher tax rate than any other city in the county. And so that could be also hurtful to our city at the same time when it comes to commerce. So
I think El Centro has the same tax rate as we now. I
now
think
they
they just
do, now they
increased.
do, but we were the highest tax rate in the county, so. What do you mean tax rate? Here it is now. 8.5.
My last comments are about the next steps. And not many councils have to deal with 3 fiscal years at the same time, and I appreciate the complexity and the confusion as we flip between years in our discussion tonight. But we are very pleased that all the audit products are complete now. We hope that this is the last that you are hearing about the 15-16 fiscal year. The action.
You're not coming back anymore?
I do have a question for Mr. Pun, though. With regards to the situation that we were in, having, like Ms. Mayor says, 3 years of chaos in our in our finance department, and over expenditures of over $9 million within 2 years. I guess my question is, how did the audits not kind of catch this in prior years, as far as letting us know, hey, you're going on this path, and we continue to get a favorable mark from Pun and McGiddy, but even though it was a disaster in reality?
Well, actually, it is not regarding, the unmodified opinion is not an indicator of financial health.
Okay.
In the last couple of years, we already mentioned to the city council on the depletion of the fund balance. So this has been communicated to the city council like the last couple of years. Unmodified opinion is only an indicator of saying that these numbers are reported in accordance with generally accepted accounting principle. So
That doesn't, so you guys giving us a recommendation, your opinion, doesn't mean we're okay, it just means that there wasn't anything illegal.
correct.
Correct, okay, thank you.
Resuming our discussion of the financial planning process and where we are in that process, we hope we are done with the 16 fiscal year. The action tonight, the resolution in front of you tweaks and continues 16, 17 in a holding pattern until we finish the last few pay periods of the year. And then the next thing that we'll be bringing to you is the 17-18 budget. And there's really three parts to that budget. There's the capital improvement program, and your Public Works Director is here tonight to begin to introduce those projects to you. And the program is significant, and as the financial statements that have published indicate, you have, despite the negative balances in the general fund, you have a number of capital program funds that have significant cash balances that are available to implement the vision of the council with respect to capital improvements. So as we look at 17-18, one significant piece of the budget is the capital project budget. In fact, it dwarfs the general fund budget. The next thing is the general fund budget itself, and that really we take up on it by itself because it's the discretionary money of the city, and this is where most of the employees are housed. Then there is the collective assortment of 40 or 50 other programs that are basically grant and enterprise funds. So there's really three parts to the budget, and so we're really kicking off the first part of that tonight with an introduction to the capital program. We'll be back to you sometime in the next few weeks with the first look at the general fund, ramping up to adoption of the full 17-18 budget before June 30. And with that, my comments are concluded, and I would ask for your consideration of the resolution in front of you to amend the 16-17 budget.
Thank you. I will refer back to the council, see if there's any questions.
I just had a general question for Ms. Myers. When you come to present, you're going to be presenting then the budget that includes all departments. I think you said that you're doing it in phases, but will we be seeing all departments' budgets coming up?
Absolutely.
Because we focus so much just on the general fund, but we will be seeing all. We're prepared for that now to have that generated. We're going to be generating now those budgets now fully from Springbrook?
The departments have already been working on their budgets for the past couple of weeks, yes.
And I have another curious question. I know that there's been a lot of work, but when is there, I don't know if it's within your scope of work, but as far as the purchase order system, are we closer to having that implemented? Or who answers that question?
I
City
would
manager?
refer that to the finance director, but given the workload, I'm not aware of any progress that has been made.
Excuse myself.
Mr. Pun, thank you. All things being equal, it wasn't a totally sorrowful audit for a number of different reasons. You mentioned a few. Obviously, the journal entries is a significant part. The time it took you to conduct the audit is another positive. The fact that we have kind of gone to even keel. We're not positive yet, but we're gone to even keel through a lot of sacrifice from the city manager, department heads, city employees, et cetera, is a huge, huge win in my personal opinion. Ms. Meyer, thank you for your help and for your support. Without you, I'm not sure where we would be. Tocayo, también felicidades. Gracias por tu apoyo.
I can't say that, Mrs. Meyer, but I can just tell you in English, thank you very much for your hard work and clarification. There's something spinning in my head, Armando, won't get out right now. It scares me. And I don't want to accept it as the truth, but it is the truth. We have 14 million, so much money revenue. And out of that, 12 million is for public safety. doesn't leave us very much.
That's correct.
But we're going to work on that.
Before the next item, I'll excuse myself, I have an issue.
Okay. You leaving, right? Bye. Can Novella start?
Mr. Pacheco, do you have any comments?
No, I just.
Standing ovation or?
Well, yeah, what I said earlier, I think our staff did a great job, and
Standing ovation for everybody involved in this
Yes.
great,
You did a good job, sir.
good job. Thank you, Ms. Myers.
thank you, guys.
I'm an educator, so
Staff
I'm a
did a
little
good job.
slower on
Staff
that.
I
did a good
know,
job.
I know a lot of the staff's not here, but you know, I pass by there all the time, and everybody's just, you know, hitting the books and working hard, and
With the
I
limited
re-
staff that we have, we did a great job.
You know,
we did.
may I interject something? I don't think we should dismiss, and I'm not saying we are, but I don't think we should dismiss Mr. Kim's comment that we have an unhappy community. I think we need to inquire. I think we need to have strategies where they are able to see the big picture and understand it and have to live through it. And maybe there's ways that we can communicate more and interact with the community and volunteers. Like, tons of volunteers could easily clean up downtown, at least for one day, it'd stay that way.
Can
So-
can I add to
Yeah.
what you're saying? You know, I had this conversation with our city manager the other day that the people, our community is upset, and they've been upset for a long time, and it's because of the situation that they see. You know, the council here, along with the city manager and staff, know that this year was a big year for us. We turned around the boat. You know, that ship. You know, to turn a ship takes time, and the city's a big ship, and we turned it around. The problem is that to the ordinary citizen,
I don't see it.
we're supposed to be doing that already. It's not something that they see as being a progress, because according to them, that's what the government's here for already, right? To have the financials
Correct. I mean,
in
there
place.
was a
So-
mess up and we're cleaning it up.
Correct, but that's something that we're already supposed to do, in their
Okay.
eyes, in the public's eyes, which is true.
But how many
And-
times have we explained to them that there was a mess up and now we got to clean it up?
Well, a lot of them know, but, you know, we do need some you know, some PR
PR.
done, but.
I agree.
But also, at the same time, we need to get to work. We need to get to work. We need to get back on our staffing levels. And while our financials look better and we're you know, a balanced budget, I guess you can say, we're very far from being healthy, and that is because our employees, we have less than 150 employees, and this city should be upwards of 300 employees to give the people the service that they deserve.
Absolutely.
And so we're way far from being where we need to be, but we're one step closer.
But, Mr. Mayor, you agree that a major solution to that is to get our heads together and be aggressive about bringing in revenue?
That is one. We need to bring in revenue, and we need to save money. So we need to work
Save
on both
money.
ends. So let's move on. Any more comments from the council? We good? Let's move on. We have item 6.
Mr. Mayor, we need to vote on the resolution. So.
I make a motion to approve resolution item 5.
So move.
All in favor?
Second.
Aye.
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 Passes 4 with Maritza Hurtado not being present.
It's the
Move
end of a
to
novella
informational
tonight.
item 6, presentation by Nick Finley, Public Works Manager, City Capital Improvements Program. Make a motion that we table this for the next item, for the next council. I'm joking. Go ahead.
Thank you.
Items.
Thank you.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and City Council members. Nick Finley, Public Works Manager, the City of Calexico. I'm here before you today to present the preliminary 5-year capital improvement project program. The CIP consists of actually, we could call them four divisions or departments. Six of them are within the general, Public Works realm, and one is the fire protection, as you can see, which is the fire station that is in the works currently.
What do you do there?
The fire protection is, they're currently relocating the existing, they're working on relocating it to the old courthouse. However, there's been some minor issues where they've encountered some improvements or that need to be made to that courthouse before they can temporarily move over to that location. They need to vacate their current location due to the fact that it's been determined with the $6 million from Measure H that's been assigned to the fire station, that it's not enough money to purchase land and build a new station.
Okay, thank you, just answered my
So
question.
that's already been determined. So it's been decided that it's better to redesign, remodel the current station with the money that is available, which is a little over $6 million from Measure H money that's been assigned to that program. So currently, the pre-design is been done. I think they've got some plans already in hand that they will be reviewing to determine any changes or.
But it's going to get done and they're going to move over there, right?
Well, first they're going to move over to the courthouse.
That's what I mean.
Correct. So that's being worked on now.
In other words, it's being, the place now is being rehabilitated. So they
Correct.
got to move out, fix it up, and then move back in.
So that's where we are now. So once the design has been accepted, and of course it's got to go to an RFP, and then construction would have to be.
Okay.
How far are we from that RFP process?
I'd have to verify that on that.
Chief, do you know? Ballpark?
Yeah, we're pretty much presented to the city manager within a couple of weeks.
Okay.
So, the preliminary design, so the schematics for the fire station have been conceptually approved. What they have to do now is they need to really go out and cost it out.
Okay.
So the preliminary numbers right now are coming in far more than $6.1 million, but we're trying to sort of develop a plan for how we're going to come up with the difference.
Chief, in the back, what would you say are right now the major problems, health-wise or public safety-wise, in the fire station?
We can come back to you with some of that stuff later on.
Okay, I can ask Nick. Nick, the $6 million, is it going to do just a Band-Aid job with the problems they have, or are they going to really fix the problems?
It's going to fix the major problems that are there. It's going to give them a decent working location. It may not be a Taj Mahal.
Toilets will work.
It's not going to be a Taj Mahal. However, it'll be a decent, respectable place for them to work out.
Because I would have preferred to have a new station, but I understand.
It's $30 million.
It can't wait. It just can't wait any longer. They need something done now.
How bad is 2?
2 is in good condition. It's inhabitable. There was a renovation to it, I think,
They have waves
5 years
down.
ago.
A little longer than
Yeah.
So it's,
6, 7 years, yeah.
Correct. So it's something that we would have to take a look at, in the near future, finding the funding source for that. But it's inhabitable. It's a good work. It's in good condition that they can work out of currently. Okay. Well, the next slide is the Park Maintenance Division, which is one of the more controversial issues that we have as to determining how and what improvements we're going to do. The two first items, the Heber Park and the Armory demolition, have already been done.
Yes.
Those have been completed. I just put them on there so you can see
Good
that
job, Nick.
we're proactive on that. Miguel Cortez Park, we have a grant also, this is grant money, $230,000. That's the RFP that you guys approved.
Right.
A couple of months, so that's in the works now. We're expected to have that completed by the end of June.
May I interject?
No.
Yes, I can.
Okay.
Mr. Villa, the $230,000 for the Miguel Cortez Park, was that the grant that you told me that we have a company, they're doing grants, and they came up with it that day?
No, this is probably something we got several years ago, right?
Yeah, we did internally through the housing.
Yeah.
to home
Council, we do have a
So
grant
this is probably a
company.
CDBG.
We have a
grant,
company, they're
correct?
doing grants.
Correct.
Okay. I would like to just address on this park improvements,
Million.
$1,026,000 that the council hopefully take into consideration that we have a huge need for baseball fields due to the widening of Cesar Chavez, which is going to, I think we'll get through this year's Little League and softball, but for next year, it's imperative that, and I'm thinking this Cordova Park is probably the one that's ready to, or closer to be able to do something. And that we work together to try and get some baseball fields there, hopefully, because this Little League is gonna really hurt. This year, we almost didn't even have a Little League. I wanna also,
What park are they at, Mr. Mayor?
who's that?
The people the kids you're talking about.
Little League Park has been at the water plant, close to the water plant for a long time. So that's going to become, an issue with the new widening. So we need to at least give them 2 parks somewhere else in the city where they can go ahead and play. The school district has a really nice one here on Heber, but they're probably not going to lend that to us for sure. So we need to be proactive on that. And I also want to thank you for your help on the lights. I know that the lighting was an issue this year. These lights, they go out every single year, and it gets expensive to fix them, but I know the city
Mr. Villa.
stepped up.
Mr. Villa, can't we use part of the armory and
We're getting a project.
put fields in there, Little League fields? Have we already designed what's going to go in
Yeah.
that slot in Sheridan?
Yes, we have.
We have, and it's
Okay.
not Little League fields.
No. It's, well, should I burst the bubble?
Yes.
I have a meeting tomorrow with the state, Parks and Recreation. They're coming down to look at the site. We applied for a grant. So if they're coming all the way down from Sacramento, I'm hoping for the best.
Well,
So
what are we gonna put there?
It's a multi-purpose field. It can be used for football, soccer,
Great.
anything. And its combination has restrooms and some other amenities, parking lot.
This is for what
The
park
Armory.
The
exactly?
Heber Park, where the Armory was at.
So
that's been done.
if I might add, and maybe the council would, so the council knows, I know there was, when you have money to spend on parks, for example, right now that there's $1,026,000, it behooves us to spend it on parks where grants are harder to get, like Cordova, because it's in a, I guess you want to call
More
it
affluent area.
higher income area, than spending it on a park in a lower income area, because those are obviously susceptible to getting more grants in the future. It's easier to get grants for a lower income area. That's what I'm trying to get across, so.
But I had heard there's a way that we could get the grant for that part.
And
We heard a lot of stuff.
Yeah, on Cordova Park.
Follow-up?
Cordova Park is really hard due to the demographics of the area.
But it's
the-
not
the higher
impossible,
income.
Nick. Nothing's impossible.
Well, they're
No.
not,
Nothing's impossible.
it's been difficult for us trying to get a grant. At the Cordova location, speaking in regards to the Little League relocation of those fields, we could actually squeeze 3 fields in there, in part of the park, because you're talking about 10 acres worth of park.
In Cordova,
So,
correct.
in Cordova, so that's one of the things that we have been considering moving, since that area is going to be kind of landlocked, what we call landlocked, due to the expressway of Cesar Chavez to the new port of entry.
Yeah.
And it's kind of dangerous for having youth out there playing baseball and running around.
Right.
And then the accessibility, it's only one way in and one way out of that one area.
That place has a lot of, it's going to be landlocked for one. I know that Public Works is trying to get a piece of it to grow, right? And also, the rest of it will become prime real estate that the city can either rent out or sell in the future. Another thing is that
Another Starbucks.
Our kids are playing also right next to a methadone clinic, which is kind of,
Ooh,
it's kind of.
Not too good.
Not a good situation. So hopefully, we can get these fields at Cordova Park with these monies and go from there.
okay, I need clarification. Forgive me, I'm an educator, so it takes me a little while, but I don't care what you think. I'm going to ask the questions. All right, all these numbers, is this part of your budget, Nick?
This is Measure H money. This money has been set aside.
This is Measure H money?
Correct.
Well, it's
first,
it's from a bond.
correct, it's a bond.
Oh, it's the bond.
It's part of the bond money that was left.
Very good.
The million, I think it was 11 million originally. 7 million was like we said, set aside for the fire department. They're down to 6.1.
All right.
And the
Okay.
Cordova Park, I think originally had
1.8,
Okay, thank you
1.6,
for
I
the
believe, so
clarification.
it's down.
and the pool.
Been drawn,
And the
right.
pool was
Right,
the
no,
rest.
I
Correct.
remember
And that's
how we distributed that.
So
Now,
that's where this funding will be
okay, that's
coming
good.
from.
And then the 6 million is for the fire department.
Correct.
Mr. Villa, Mr. Mayor said maybe because that nice baseball field is going to be torn down, that we can get 2 parks right away. What's your answer to that?
Where at?
He's hopeful that when we tear down,
Well, no, let me.
that we're going to be able to get 2 parks. We want to work on 2 parks.
I don't know if I maybe.
But with this overall budget concern, I
No,
think we're just
these
going to be
are-
here,
these
no from
This-
you, sir.
These are monies that have been allocated for these projects. This is the CIP. This is,
But this is not, the 2 parks are not here.
The 2 parks don't have to be there. It's telling you there's $1 million to do something.
Oh, park improvements in general.
yeah, in
Okay.
general. So
And excuse me.
we can choose,
Okay,
What to do with it.
and, you know, there's,
okay,
There's a
then it can
multitude
be
of things
done.
that we can
Thank
do,
you.
yeah.
Correct.
Thank you. Don't want to be misled or confused.
The next slide is our transportation division, and same thing here. The items in yellow have already been completed. The seismic bridge study has been completed. The relocation of the water
that's
lines
good. Thank
for
you for
the improvements on Highway 98, for the improvements there at Cesar Chavez all the way to Edie. So that's been taken care of. The Cesar Chavez Boulevard improvements, that's an ongoing project. We have completed the land acquisition. I think there was one last property that we had to acquire. That we spent close to over $2 million just in land acquisitions for the right-of-way. And the design is about, I'd say, 90% done. We were waiting for Cesar Chavez. And so what's going to be left is going out for bids, hopefully within the next couple of months, so this project can be completed. Construction of Cesar Chavez is over $6 million.
60?
6 million.
Oh,
Is this money that the city's spending, but it's been reimbursed by Caltrans and
This is a combination.
GSA,
This is a
correct?
combination of 3 funding sources, which
Okay.
is the federal.
How much is the actual city spending?
We're going to be spending close to, I believe, hold on a second.
you got 10 million here, but this is for
Yeah, but this is-
transportation.
It's showing you what they're spending, but you got Caltrans and GSA also pitching in for
Pitching in?
for the majority of this.
I don't have the funding
Okay.
source.
Okay.
Sorry
The
about that, but I can
majority
get it
is
back to you.
GSA and
Yeah, the
Caltrans.
majority
I mean,
is-
it's
yeah.
95% is probably,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah,
Nick?
We'll
One of
be
the
putting
thing-
in
I'm not
about a
done,
little
sir.
over.
Okay, go ahead, sir.
One of the biggest things that I hope we can work on, and it's one of the biggest sources here, is the street overlay project of 13.5 million. I hear everybody wants to know what streets, and so I'm curious to ask what the method or the procedure for picking what streets are worse than others. Is it going just based on the last time they were serviced, or is it going based on actually looking at the street and saying, or who goes out there and says, you know what, this is the one that really needs to be done? I noticed that on the list, there was a lot of streets that are worse than those that aren't on there. And so my question is that something that's set in stone? Can it be, I guess, revamped for certain streets that maybe, also need help?
We update that, what we call the 5-year list. We
your
update
master
it every
list.
year, so it depends on the conditions of the street and the priority and the funding that we have available, and that's what makes that determination. So that's basically, we physically go
Have you
out there
seen
and
the
take a
list,
look at these streets.
Armando? Sure you have.
There's been a couple of streets that we have removed and added another street due to the fact of the condition saying, hey, this one's worse, we need to.
And you
And
should
also,
criticize them.
and also, very similar to what we're talking about the parks, where there's streets that, that possibly could be done in the future by Caltrans or the county, that it's probably streets we don't want to touch because it's in our city, but
They can do it?
the county could also help with that as well, correct?
No, the county will only overlay or maintain roads and streets within the county limits. It will not
They won't
maintain
help us
anything within
inside.
city limits. The Caltrans will only maintain those designated as highways, which is Imperial Avenue at this current time, or Highway
No,
98.
and correct, but for example, right now, and where I'm coming from is that, for example, Cesar Chavez is going to get redone, right?
Correct.
So there's no sense in spending money on doing Grant and Cesar Chavez because they're going to do that already,
Correct.
right? So, like I said, I was just wondering how you guys pick them and to make sure that we're not, putting on the list, for example, Lincoln and all those streets that are there where Cesar Chavez is getting done, and 98, because that's already going to get done by Caltrans.
Yes.
Right?
We have a program where you input the streets and the information on the streets, and it gives you a rating on those streets. But it's always computer generated, basically.
Okay.
So that's why we physically go out there and take a look at the streets. And sometimes we have to skip some streets saying, hey, there's worse streets than that. And so that's basically how we make those
Oh, come on,
determinations.
can I speak? Yes, let me speak. Nick, do we have all the money for sure for Cesar Chavez Boulevard improvements?
Yes, we do.
Good. A lot of citizens, and I may speak this way, do not know what the hell is going on Cesar Chavez. They don't hear anything. Also, I'll finish that. Could we have a teacher has an action plan or a timeline? You should be having meetings with different constituents or organizations. There should be timelines as to when certain things are going to be done. You should know that. Could you put that down on paper?
We're currently requesting a new timeline due to the fact that this is about the 5th or 6th timeline that's been put together, due to the fact that the land acquisition for the right-of-ways has taken a lot longer.
A lot longer.
A lot longer than anticipated due to the fact that you had residents who fought in court, took you to court, wouldn't give up their land because they,
Yes, I understand that.
Okay, so that has dragged on quite a bit.
Okay, and that's out of your hands.
And then we have other entities like the railroad company, which is a federal agency, and the IID, and other utility companies that we had to coordinate with.
You're scaring me.
And it just dragged on longer than.
Well,
we
then,
expected.
Nick, do you mean that when the port of entry is completed, beautiful, are we going to be with our pants down? We don't have Cesar Chavez completed?
We are trying our best to have it done at the same time the port opens.
So can I just point out, I call this the first step of formulating the CIP. I think eventually you will see when we actually publish the CIP, you're going to have.
Excuse me, what's the CIP?
The Capital Improvement Program.
Okay.
You're going to see more columns that be added, the funding sources added.
Okay, good.
And then you're going to have.
Where are we
a
going to see
timeline
that?
When we actually publish and bring to you the CIP for
How
approval.
long will that be, sir?
we'll probably make that part of the budget process.
Correct.
And so we'll bring it as we bring the budget for next year, we'll also bring the CIP budget for you, and we'll add, you know,
Okay,
the funding
very
sources.
good. That's what I want. As a teacher, I like seeing the whole picture.
But this
as
was
we
an
move along.
introduction, so you can see what's being worked on.
Because I didn't hear anything, and I was getting scared. Are they having meetings? I mean, what's going on, you know? And the public, are we gonna do something for the public to inform them?
They'll
Make it
be invited to
transparent?
the meeting here so they can see the CIP.
Don't rely on them coming here. And we don't wanna blame them. We need to do more to communicate to
We
the
can
public.
publish the CIP plan in the website, so they can download it.
Okay,
and-
website, very good, okay. Or even packets where they can pick it up in El Sol or something.
Or could we knock on every door and tell them,
What?
is that- maybe go knock on every door?
No, but I think it's a wrong perspective that we have, that it's always, you know, if they don't come, then so be it, it's their fault. Most of them work 2 jobs.
Okay, let's move on.
Most of them work 2 jobs, and they have kids to
Let's move on.
take care of.
Next slide is the wastewater treatment facility division. Okay, and as you can tell, the current item that is in the works is the boiler replacement. That's a $290,000 project. This is replacing an old boiler that was out of commission, and in order to be compliant with the Air Pollution Control District, we have to replace this boiler. And in the plans for the CIP is also getting a heat exchanger that will work in conjunction with the boiler. We need to put together a wastewater master plan to determine exactly what the needs are for improvements along the wastewater treatment plant. It's long due for an upgrade. The upgrade should have taken place in 2007. We're now in 2017. 10 years later, and no improvements have been taking place. We need to replace the emergency generator, which operates the plant during a power failure. Like the 2 we had today, we had 2 power failures today. I don't know if you all experienced it, but us over on the west side of town, we were without power twice today. So the emergency generator is essential, you know, to keep the plant running and processing the solids.
We have one, don't we?
Yes, we do, but it's outdated and it needs to be replaced. And there's a dewatering unit that needs to be installed. This dewatering unit will help dewater the solids so they don't take so long in the drying beds in order to dry. We need to upgrade our disinfection systems. We need to replace the laboratory equipment. We need to replace a compactor screening. We need to replace some vehicles and some equipment out there. The alarm system needs to be upgraded because the place isn't mandated 24 hours a day. The aeration system needs to be replaced. The lagoon system needs to be rehabbed. The grid chamber, the clarifier.
We have a lagoon?
And last but not least, we need to do what we call a design build upgrade.
Do you have all this money
Yes, we do.
in your fund, sir?
Yes,
Your
we do.
department?
Yes, we do.
Where is it generated? Where does it come
It's a
from?
wastewater fund. It's an enterprise money.
Enterprise
This
money?
is restricted money that you don't.
Not Measure D or
No, this is restricted money from
Yes.
what is paid for through your
water bill?
correct, for your sewer collection and treatment. So it's set aside for these type of improvements.
Thank you, next restricted.
The other division within the wastewater is the collection
Please
system.
excuse me for 5 minutes.
Is the collection system, and this is basically all the sewer lines, manholes that are out in the street. We need to continue doing some sewer manhole rehabilitation. We did 2 this year, one on Bernardo Drive and Imperial Avenue, and the other one here on 5th and Rockwood. Some of our manholes are quite old and need to be replaced and rehabbed. Some of them are even still made of brick.
Why do we need cameras in the sewer line?
Well, the sewer line camera system is a camera system so we can inspect the sewer lines and not have the collapses that we have, that we currently had.
Detect.
Right, what we do is we run it through the system, and it takes any breakage in the sewer line. A lot of our sewer lines are old clay pipe, and so if they break, we have no way of detecting it. We can sit there and rot it out, but we need to have, it's a preactive type of approach to detecting issues that we may encounter.
Nick, let me, let me ask you a question regarding, with all the street overlays that we're doing, the $13.5 million we're gonna spend, are we doing those on streets that have the clay pipes that are, I mean, I guess my question is, are we doing a disservice resurfacing streets that have clay pipes underneath where we know eventually we're gonna have to dig up and fix?
But what we did on some of those streets that we had concerns on, we actually got a company down here, ran a camera through just to play it safe. We removed 2 or 3 streets that were going to be overlaid. We have issues not only with the sewer line, but the water line, so those were taken off the resurfacing for that same reason. No reason to go resurface it if we're going to have to dig it up.
Correct, okay,
So
thank you.
we're trying to, this will help us be a little bit more proactive instead of having to bring a company out of, I think the nearest one is Palm Desert. So they charge you for the trip down here, plus the time they spend down here.
Carlos could have given him a ride, and we could have saved some money.
It's probably Carlos's company. No. And so vehicle equipment also, it needs to be, vehicles are pretty old. Everybody's questioning, how can you be driving those things around? So we need to do some investments in regards to that. And of course, there's a sewer lift station upgrade replacement. There's a couple of lift stations that we need to replace. One is over on Scaroni Road and Cole Road. With the expansion of the housing that we're expecting over to the north part of town, we need to upgrade these sewer lift stations. And that works in conjunction with the one which is further down right at Camacho Road and Scaroni, that we'll need to upgrade both of those lift stations for the additional capacity. The next division is our water distribution division. This division, we need to replace the water line, speaking of a water line, at 5th and Cesar Chavez. There's an old 18-inch AC line that we need to relocate because it actually runs through the middle of the 2 Little League fields, and it goes to the east across the railroad tracks. So we're looking not only to the replacement of the old line, but also expanding it to a bigger capacity, increasing it from an 18-inch to a 24-inch line because it's a main transmission line. This is one of the old original lines that's still there at the water treatment system. We need to conduct a water rate study. This is something that we've pushed around for the last year and a half, where we can come up maybe with a different type of tier rate type of system in order to comply with the state regulations and ourselves, because we haven't conducted a rate study in, 10, 15 years, 20 years. So it's been a while. So we need to conduct one, make sure that our rates are compatible with what our needs are in our future infrastructure. We also need to replace some equipment and vehicles in this area, and we need to do some water line replacements. Same thing, we have old water lines that are cast iron, so we need to replace some of those lines, especially in the older areas of town, and there's some old AC lines that we need to replace, so we need to start getting proactive. We have too many broken water lines on these old lines, and just putting a clamp after a clamp after a clamp on these things, so.
My house.
Yeah, but that's how I was looking in the area where you live is a perfect example. And the next slide is the water treatment facility. I tell you the two items in orange is the urban water management plan, which is in the works now. We are having a public hearing on that'll be coming up, so we can get some input from the community in regards to the urban water management plan. And the other project that's in the works is the emergency generator replacement at the water treatment plant.
Could you enlighten me a little bit on the urban water management plan? Exactly what it consists of?
Well, it's a study that's conducted in regards to the needs and the future needs of not just the city, but as a whole for our future development. So it's huh? Yeah, and it's required that we conduct it every so often, that we update it.
So it's like a
Sorry.
general plan, but for
Correct,
the water
correct.
system?
It's all.
Every 5
for-
years, 10 years? What do you guys?
I think it's every 5 years, but we're running a little bit behind, so that's why we're.
So what's the difference between the water master plan and?
The water master plan is more of the needs of the water treatment system and our distribution system. Okay. So they kind of work hand in hand, but it's more of a detail of what we're going to need in our treatment system, storage capacity wise, and in our raw water currently. We need to increase or you know, in what services and what capacity. So it's kind of a, both. Yeah, it's a, and so we have chlorine unloading ramp currently. It's kind of, every time I see that truck arrive, I kind of shake. What they do is they unload it with a forklift. They load these 1-ton tank, 2-tonners with a forklift because there's no ramp. The way it's set up, it's too sharp. So it kind of, that's one of the priority items that I have. And every time that truck shows up, I just kind of, we make sure it gets strapped down. Everybody's, you know, all the safety precaution we need to, but it's still one of those things that kind of makes your hair stand up on the back of your neck when you see that.
Nick, I'm sorry to stop you, but so all these things that are going on, obviously, it's also a very good job creator for the city and for local businesses that wanna possibly work with the city. Now, where would they go to the website to actually try and bid on these projects?
Well, once we put the RFPs out, not only do we put them on the website.
The city website?
The city website, but we also advertise them in the papers.
Which papers would that be so that the public
Valley
know?
Press or whatever, you know, we normally just do the Valley Press.
Okay,
but,
Valley Press.
What happens is we also use, like the IVD, EDC, they have an area for projects that are going on and stuff that they can, so we try and advertise the best we can and, you know, with the cost, keeping the cost low as possible, but we try and get the words out. And the
Do
word
we
out is good.
do we give any preference to local companies?
We always go with the lowest bidder. We always go with the
Okay.
lowest bidder. That's one of the requirements that we have to comply with. So
Okay.
it's always the lowest bidder. Unless for some reason there's something wrong with the bid, then we'll reject that bid and go with the next one. So, and I'm glad you brought that up because that's one of the things that these projects will stimulate the economy, bring in employees.
Well, there's and I'm,
People will be
I'm all-
hiring.
you know,
Exactly.
it's the
So it's-
dollar multiplier effect where if, you know, these people are working here, they're shopping here, there's, you know, so hopefully,
Exactly.
hopefully this will get some economic development to our city as well.
Right, so it's kind of a win-win, you know, we're going to make the improvements, but at the same time, it'll help the economy by creating these jobs and bringing these, you know, people in to shop. And, you know, once they have more money, they shop a little bit more and brings up more sales tax. And basically, that's the completion of my presentation. The total cost of these CIPs is $53,781,000.
Everything that you've presented?
Everything that was presented. So you're looking at roughly $54 million worth of projects that we have coming forth. And yes, we do have,
Sounds like a dumb question. You've got that money?
we have the funding, yes.
I'm sorry, I want to know.
That's one of the questions people were asking.
Our general fund isn't dead. But this is enterprise.
You can't use this money for general fund, no.
No, I know, it's restricted.
Nick, on the generator replacement, didn't we approve of one like a month and a half ago?
Correct, that's the one at the water treatment plant,
Okay, so we need another one?
for the wastewater treatment plant.
We need another one.
So wastewater treatment plant, correct. So,
All right.
So just for clarification, you have this money?
correct.
Okay.
I just asked that.
Keep in mind, this is a 5-year plan.
Can we clarify once again?
It could be done in
Hey.
phases.
Right, this is not all gonna be done at once. This is a 5-year plan, so not all
I'm not
$54
buying it.
million is gonna be spent at one time.
Yeah, no, I understand that. May I point out two things. I saw a few years back the master plan of the streets. And Nick, I was a little taken back and disappointed because all I saw, I swear, was just a list of streets. And as an educator, we've gotten used to timelines or who's responsible and so forth. Has that master plan changed?
No.
It's just a list of streets?
Basically, and they're in an order as they were rated. I can tell you, so basically
As they were rated.
it's a computer-generated list as how they were rated.
Who rates them, the computer?
It's a program. As a matter of fact, we need to get a new one because it's kind of, ours is already obsolete. But that's basically
Sounds arbitrary. Okay.
That's the system that everybody runs. Every city, just about the county, everybody uses this, so you don't have the politics getting involved saying, I want you to fix that street.
Yes.
Or I want you to fix that street. Or so-and-so lives on
But-
this street, I want to take. So basically, we take that list, and then us as staff members, we go over there and we say, okay, we're going to review these streets and check the conditions. If we feel that one street, for whatever reason, can wait because there's one that we visually saw that is worse,
Very good.
we move.
Because that's what I've seen before. Working on streets that are fairly okay, and then driving down Rockwood, which is, a horrendous experience.
It's on this, it's getting overlaid in the next
Okay.
few months. So that's one of the things
All right,
that we look at.
one more complaint or issue. Nick, if I was to walk into your living room the first time, that's my impression of how you live, right? The living room. So if it's messy and dirty, that I'm going to conclude. Well, the entrance to Calexico is messy and dirty right now. I think you were doing a very good job a little earlier, trimming everything. But I'm concerned, like, at the four corners on Cole, the trees are dying, but the weeds are choking the trees.
Do you want me to take care of it? You want to tell?
So do you find that as a priority? Are you going to work on
A
that?
lot of it is Caltrans and Caltrans.
No, I was told it's the city.
That's our maintenance, we have to
Yes.
maintain that section. Yeah, we
See, you're
just.
wrong.
Okay. Due to budget cuts, our temporary staff
I know you got one guy.
was cut down, okay, so it was cut down to
Okay.
now. I just brought in some temporary staff that we will be cleaning that area, maintaining that area within the next couple of weeks.
Okay, thank you. I did this in my campaign. Would it still be okay? If I took the lead and I got students like 17 or 18 years of age and some adults from different organizations, not outside of the freeway, of course, on the fence, and we pulled the weeds and raked up the papers and the dirt, would the city provide tools for us?
Yes, we could do that as long as there's a responsible
Yes.
adult with these minors.
Oh, there has to be supervision, I understand.
Correct, and of course, they would have to be wearing the safety gear and attire that they need to wear, being out on
Okay.
the shoulder like that.
I'll work on that.
Nick, just to kind of piggyback on what he's saying, I know that some of the areas are Caltrans on those four corners. And I've asked, and Caltrans, it takes a long time to kind of come in and fix that. But in the past, there had been some movement to possibly work with the sheriff and the prisoners to help and clean the city. Is that something that we can look into again? I know that for some reason in the past, the city didn't want to do it because there was a cost to it, but I think I'm sure that the help outweighs the cost, right?
Well, what happened was that we used to use the prisoners from the state prison, not the ones from the county prison. And what happened was, when they had their cutbacks, they used to do it, they initially used to do it for free. And when they had their cutbacks, they were requiring that any city participating or requesting their assistance pay for that officer's annual salary. So they were looking at $85,000 a year.
Wow.
Wasn't guaranteed due to the fact that if there was lockdown, or let's say the officer had to replace somebody and they didn't come out, it wasn't guaranteed. So we just felt it was a little bit too much money for the service that was going to be provided. Because you couldn't count on them coming on a continuous basis. So it's sporadic here or there if and when they could come out.
Could we look and see if they're still charging or maybe
I
talking to
believe
the
they still
county?
are. That's why a lot of the cities are no longer using them.
Oh, yeah, that used to be done.
Yeah, I mean, we had them for years and years because nobody else wanted them. We had them down here constantly, but then when the cutbacks came in is when we said, oh, well.
So on those corners, the areas that Caltrans is kind of neglecting to help us with, is there a way for us to just tell Caltrans, you know what, let us take over it, that way, and charge them or something like that?
Where does
See
Caltrans
that-
have?
Four corners, Caltrans has, all four corners have
Is
right
that
away as
true, Mr.
Caltrans.
City
I believe.
There's
Manager?
Caltrans right away, but there's
Right away.
agreement that we will maintain it.
Okay, so we
Yes,
do have that
see?
agreement,
Yes.
okay.
I was told that they hardly do anything, that it's our responsibility.
That area from the Central Main Canal by Toys R Us,
Yes,
south to Highway 98.
that's our
And
jurisdiction.
I promise this is my last question, because I actually had a person just call me on it. I think what are they, Bougainvilleas between the middle of the freeways, 111? So they're being cut down like this to the bottom. Is it better for us to just take them off? Take them away? Does it help?
We
Does
can't,
it- You can't?
no.
Why not?
Because the agreement with Caltrans, when they were actually oleanders that were down the middle,
Olean-
Ay,
Yeah.
Mandy, they
that the
look
city would
pretty.
maintain them.
They're gonna grow, they grow up, they're muy bonita.
It's a stump, that's all it is.
No, I disagree,
See,
there's
it-
flowers and
It
everything.
what happened there the last time we cut them down, because they do grow pretty quick, was when the water conservation came in, so we couldn't water them on a regular basis. And
Nick.
that's what kind of caused that problem, so.
Nick.
Once we get there and clean it up, now will be able.
Oh geez.
So is there a way to talk to Caltrans and try and maybe, work on that modify the agreement?
Yes.
Well, we could take a look at it, but it was pretty much set in stone.
And the reason, here's another reason why I think, aside from them being an eyesore because they're cut, one's dry, one's, if we don't have the money or the water to maintain them, another reason is that they cut down as you're coming north, they cut down the visibility on both sides as far as commerce goes. For example, now that Cardenas is coming in, you're coming into Calexico, and you start, these trees, they're gonna cover your site to see Fallas Paredes,
the
Cardenas, and all
trees.
these things on
And
the side.
that's why we had cut them low, because we were gonna maintain them at a lower level, so it wouldn't obstruct the views on either side. And that's why we cut them real low.
My question is, does it make sense to contact Caltrans because it is a burden on the city to maintain them
Right.
versus what, aesthetics?
I can take a look at the agreement, but the last time I looked at the agreement, it was pretty much set in stone, because it was signed back in
They don't want to do anymore.
80s, I think, early 80s, late 70s, early 80s.
All right, thank you for
no.
your, thank you for your.
Come on. Now you made me forget.
You forget anyways.
Okay.
All right, let's move on.
Nick, it's good talking
Thank
to
you,
you.
thank you for your presentation, Nick, appreciate it.
I think we have some public comment cards on the
We
item.
have a comment from,
Comments.
let me guess, Kim? Yeah. Mr. Kim?
Okay. I'll come see you, Nick.
Mr. Cuevas.
First of all, thank for all the details for the information. And I'm gonna have just quickly. First of all, we put the water line, and I believe that our citizen has plan to growing, and why is there any plan to we use the more bigger pipe for the future needs? Or you're gonna use for the pipe for the, what we're gonna use right now? Because the city has homework to growing to the east side, and we need to have size or capacity of the pipe for the future growing on the necessity of the water and sewer systems.
Larger pipe, Mr. Kim?
Yes, a larger pipe than what we're using right now, so they can have more, they don't have to spend money again to increasing the capacity. And the other question is, if there was called the Cordova Parks, if the Cordova Park is having issues with the money, and then how we're gonna completing with the park improvement $1.1 million. So how we gonna to connect to the benefit of the community? And third one is gonna be big issues. We already been doing with the RFP process 1.5 years, waiting for the water bill study. When are we gonna study? When we gonna to go to RFP process to completing the factual rate to be community?
I expect to have, I'll start with the last question first. Expect to have the RFP out for the water rate study, I would say by the end of July. So that's that question. So we're figuring about then for the water rate study. And then the Cordova Park, like I tell you, the money that we're going to be utilizing for the improvements to Cordova Park are one-time monies, they're Measure H monies, and there is a CFD that is collected for the maintenance of that park. So that's how that'll be continued to be maintained with the CFD money. Okay, so there's money set aside for the maintenance of that park. And to your first question on anywhere that, like I had mentioned about Cesar Chavez and Fifth Street, since we're gonna do that improvement, that's why we're enlarging the water line from the water treatment plant to Fifth Street to the railroad tracks. So we're gonna enlarge it to a larger capacity because we know we need larger capacity in there. When we do street overlays, we take that into consideration. One, whether it needs large capacity for water. Two, if the condition of the sewer is in good condition or not, if it needs to be replaced. And three, if the storm drain is adequate. So these are all taken into consideration if the street is going to be overlaid. If for some reason there's something that needs to be replaced and required to be replaced, then we put that street on hold so we can make those improvements first.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
My
Next,
last one is
Your time is up,
complementing-
Mr. Your time is up.
Complementing the RFP process
your
is going
time
to be
is up.
included the water as usage or not? The RFP for the water bill study is going to be including the water bill,
Mr. Kim,
as a usage?
Mr. Kim.
Or like the same system?
your 3 minutes are up,
Order in
sir.
the court.
We have next Mr. Cuevas, Vincent Cuevas, please.
Sorry, Mr. Kim.
Mr.
Sorry,
Finley,
Mr.
could you get together with Mr. Kim and talk about those issues, please? Thank you.
Mr. Kim has good questions.
He can ask Mr. Nick.
No, I knew that, but you only had one.
Use that one.
You only had one more question.
City Council and public. As a citizen of Calexico and voter of Calexico, I'm unhappy and I protest that after a lengthy, expensive firehouse study that recommended a new fire station at Cole and Andrade, you, City Council, in a growing city, are putting access for the firehouse to the south where there's a fence that's called the border. We need a new fire station whether you like it or not. This council is letting down the people in the city, and I really disagree with you. I think we should have a fire station at Cole and Andrade, and I think you're making a big mistake.
Thank you.
Motion to adjourn?
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.